Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. John C. Turner. I am the host of the Doc Chat Show. We're coming to you live with this very special episode, in turn, because of the state of emergency that is Blacks in higher education. Now, as a Black in higher education, that I am and have been for the past better part of my life for 20 years, I'm in a state of hurt, shock, and of being very upset in this day and time. I'm going to bring to you some great higher education leaders that are going to come with the very real, very raw, and very honest part of being a Black higher education professional. Individuals that have been connected with some of the people that you have seen in the last few weeks that have been affected. We want to show love to Dr. Bonnie Bailey. We want to show love to Dr. Gay. We want to show love to all the higher education professionals that understand where we are in this day and time in our lives. I want to bring in these great leaders on today. I'm going to give them a little bit of face time to be able to introduce themselves. Before we get started, if you are in the comments, please let us know where you're watching from. Please let us know that you're here. If you have comments, if you have any thoughts, anything that pertains to being Black in higher education, we want to hear from you today. And so we're going to start with the amazing Dr. Toya Colbert. We appreciate you for joining us. Let us know a little bit about yourself, the work that you do, and a little bit about the things you have done in higher education. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. First, I want to say thank you to John for the invitation and the space to share openly tonight. This is a much needed conversation. Again, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Toya Corbett. I'm going to say, a survivor of student affairs. I have a 20-year career in higher education. I started as a graduate student at Morgan State University and worked my way up. I've worked at two HBCUs, Morgan State University, North Carolina Central University. I've also served as the Assistant Vice President of Student Affairs for the UNC System Office and as Associate Vice President for Student Affairs at the University of Virginia. But most recently, I transitioned to being a full-time entrepreneur for several reasons. One, I'm going to say, quite fed up and tired and getting a little bored with student affairs and all that I had to deal with. And but I also have a passion for entrepreneurship, developing young people, particularly our African American young folks. And so I'm also known as the etiquette doctor. I have a etiquette business and dining etiquette training business where I go all over the country training folks from 18 to 108 years old to dress for success and dine with class. And so, again, I'm happy to be with this conversation tonight.
We appreciate you. Appreciate you. We're going to the amazing Barbara Gunn Larchie. We appreciate you so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Welcome to the show.
Well, greetings, Dr. Turner, and to be a part of this esteemed panel. Thank you. I am Barbara Gunn Larchie, and I am an emissary who dares to believe that we are destined, it is our birthright, to have a life that is autonomous, that is dignified, and that is authentic. And I began my professional career, quite frankly, under Dr. Joanne Epps at Temple Law. I was a law student at the time, and she has, in one way or another, guided my path. So I've been in spaces at Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, TSU, American Baptist College, and other spaces in Nashville. And I come to this space, quite frankly, inspired to be here, but with a heavy heart. Because Dr. Bailey was my sister. And when I say that, I mean that energetically. I know that space. I know that path. I know what it's like to study and to excel, and then to find yourself wrestling in moments of, do I need to continue to be here? What did I do wrong? How do I need to press further? So I can say when I first saw when Dr. Turner, when you initiated the conversation last week, without even knowing it, I was stepping into a place of, as with the rest of the guests here, enough. So it's a pleasure to be here.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you very much. We want to already show love to Dr. Brandon Wright. We see your mom is checking you out. Mom showing love to you. We got to make sure we do
just
that.
like at graduation.
There we go.
It's like at graduation. Yeah, she was that one that waited till everybody was quiet.
Good.
It's my baby. Yeah, that's her.
That's beautiful.
So,
Welcome to the show,
again.
sir.
Thank you again, John. I am humbled to be a part of this conversation. Hopefully, I can contribute value. I am currently the director of the Career Center at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Prior to that, I was a director of the Career Center at Arkansas Tech University. That's my alma mater. Got my bachelor's, my master's there. And prior to that, I was a trio academic and career counselor at William Carey University, a private Southern Baptist institution. I'm the guy who was born and raised in the Delta of Arkansas and found my way to Kansas City, Missouri, went to inner city schools there, and ultimately graduated back in Arkansas. And thought I was going to the NFL and wanted to pursue that career, was able to play football in college. And ultimately in 2011, wasn't able to make that transition. I had to pivot. I was your typical student athlete who wanted to go to, thought I can be D2 and go to the NFL. You know, that's possible. Don't tell me that anything else. But I can say this, I wouldn't have made it through college without writing labs, accounting labs, trio, student support services, mentors, coaches. And once again, I am the guy who on your campus folks go to help students get jobs, help students continue to build their careers. We connect alums and employers all day. And so to have the etiquette doctor on the call, I'm excited to connect there as well, but glad to be a part of the conversation.
Appreciate you. Definitely appreciate you. And last but not certainly least, the great Dr. Jonathan Henderson. We appreciate you, my friend. Let us know a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Dr. Turner. I'm excited and happy to be here. So I'm Dr. Jonathan Henderson. I have about 13 years of experience in higher education, currently serving as an assistant professor and faculty coordinator for professional learning at Southwestern College in San Diego, California. And so in that particular role, I'm responsible for the professional learning of all faculty, around 830 faculty at our institution. Prior to that, I was a regional coordinator for an organization called Umoja Community Education Foundation. And they run Black student success programs within the 116 two-year colleges within the California Community Colleges system. I oversaw 8 of them and then indirectly oversaw the other 68 programs within that system. And then prior to that, I was a program director for the Rose Black Resource Center at California State University, Dominguez Hills. And so, you know, like Dr. Toya, I am a survivor of student affairs, student services. Happy to be faculty now, okay? So it's a much better experience. And then I'm also a professor of Africana Studies at California State University, Dominguez Hills. So, you know, I'm very, very interested in this topic. And, you know, it took a lot of struggle and hurt and tears and pain, you know, to figure out how to navigate anti-Black institutions like higher education. And so hopefully I can offer some words as well when we begin our conversation.
Appreciate that. We appreciate you. Timothy Hughes is already saying we are in a state of emergency, and we appreciate you for checking in over there in Nashville, Tennessee. And he's showing love. Dr. Toya, all the AKAs out there. And of course, we have to show love to MLK, Dr. MLK, for the amazing MLK Day. Folks are checking in from all over the country. And that's what we want to see. We appreciate y'all. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Why? Because this topic matters. And I'm bringing in people that know this is a topic we need to talk about. And we appreciate my sis up there in Indianapolis. Looking forward to this conversation. So I'm going to set some precedents of where we're at. I'm going to set a little bit of how we got here, why we're sitting here. If you are checking us out, make sure you invite somebody else to check out Doc Chat Show right now. Let us know where you're from. We want to know where you're from because we want to know how you feel. We want to know what's going on, and we want to know that we are going to get you through this, and we're all going to get through it together. So let me bring up just a little bit of where we are in this situation. So this is how a lot of it started. 2024 is starting off with already a boom. The very first Black woman president of Harvard University resigns after just, was it less than 6 months? Less than 6 months.
6 months.
And we had to look at this situation as what went wrong, because it just was not just a talk that she went to try to talk about the status of Israel and Hamas war. That did not make her resign. What made her resign was this: it has been distressing to have doubt cast on my commitments to confronting hate and to uphold scholarly rigor, two bedrock values that are fundamental to who I am, and frightening to be subjected to personal attacks and threats fueled by racist amenities. This is what she wrote when it came to the fact of her having to resign. She had to, for her personal health. Then we look at earlier in 2023 with former President Jason Wingard. See, this particular article stood out to me because it shows how an administration, it shows how a campus can switch up on you. Because at first, everybody was for this man. You have a particular student, alumni, that said how this man was on the campus. He was getting involved in social media. He was riding his bike through campus. He even had thought about getting an apartment on Broad Street to be closer to the campus, connect with the students. This one student says that one connection made me feel more connected to Temple as a college. So I feel like whenever President Wingard's out and people talk to him, he's affecting the culture in a positive way. But look how these folks switched up on him so quick. He was only in office for about 2 years. A lot of Temple students at Wingard are from very different paths in life, so we can see that he is more affluent than compared to Temple community. And what really happened was all of a sudden these students weren't for him. So they put in Dr. Epps, Dean Epps. And I cannot wait till Barbara talks about her connection with Dean Epps and what she meant to her at an event. And they did not cancel the event. They kept the event going, read what she had, and kept that event going. And this woman died. She passed away. And it's hurt so bad because there's no way in the world, if this was another person, that they probably would have kept this event going, because you would have checked on your president of your university. And finally, let's look at the news that just happened in just a few days. These emails, not looking at what was put on the website from Lincoln University. Let's look at the emails that came from Dr. Bonnie Bailey. The emails that let this president know how affected she was, how hurt she was, how she felt harassed and bullied. This woman got a 36 out of 100 on an evaluation score. You can't even get that in school on a test and feel like you are even somewhat of a person. She felt like she was a body, just a pulse as a leader in that institution, an institution that she graduated from. And she put this information out there. She reached out to the board. She needed the help, and she did not get it. And sadly, her life ended where she took it on her own. This is the real talk, ladies and gentlemen, what we're dealing with. So I'm going to start with Dr. Toya, a 20-year veteran in higher education. You put an incredible post that was real talk. in the last few days, and I got to know more about it. I got to know about your feelings to everything you saw in 2023 leading up to right now. The stage and the floor is yours.
John, my post on Friday came from a deep place. When I heard the news of Dr. Bonnie, I think that Tuesday or Wednesday, I just was shocked. I was stunned. I was floored. I was confused. I was sad. Um, I kept, questioning, wondering why. And I think over the last few days, everyone has said, "Why didn't she walk away?" Right? And just thinking about, my journey. But I first just want to honor her and say, honor her spirit and her legacy, and to call her name Dr. Antoinette Canada Bailey first, and to honor that in this space right now. I am a 20-year veteran of student affairs, and I'm almost 50 years old. I know I don't look like it, but for my age range, most of us got into student affairs as a graduate student. You just kind of stumbled into, that field. You didn't go to school for it back, 20, 30 years ago, right? Like they do now, get a master's degree in higher education. I started working in student affairs because I was, my story, I was a broke graduate student and needed a job. I was going to graduate school. I was getting a master's degree in African American Studies at Morgan State University, and started working in the Office of Student Activities. Spent 10 years at Morgan, loved it. My PhD is also from Morgan, and is where I really cut my teeth in student affairs. And then I went on to North Carolina Central University, had an incredible experience there as Dean of Students and Associate Vice Chancellor, and then the UNC System Office, and then the University of Virginia. And my comments were, I'm going to say broad, yet I know some of my friends know exactly what I was talking about in terms of, one, being a Black woman, you are already considered not as smart, uh, not as passionate, not as experienced, not as articulate, not as professional as others. I didn't have that problem in kind of the first part of my career. My challenges came when, I'm doing all the work. I want to speak about student affairs in general. What I said in my post, it is the most arduous yet thankless job on a college campus. The most thankless. Yet it is rewarding. At the end of the day, I was there for the students.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the adults who make it very hard. My challenge came when, I started, getting older and wise, and I'm looking at what my counterparts in academic affairs are getting paid as compared to student affairs. I'm there more hours. I'm there longer hours. I'm there on the weekends. I'm there during summer orientation. I'm there if there's inclement weather and it snows, or now if the wind blows too hard, that they want to cancel classes in school.
Yeah.
As an essential employee in student affairs, you had to be there. You had to make sure the students had something to eat, and the residence halls were up and running. All the things. Yet the respect for the profession is just still not there. I had someone even tell me that I did not have basically the academic acumen to be a scholar, a researcher, because I was in student affairs. She didn't have any idea that I had a PhD in history, right? But just simply because I sat in student affairs, that I could not do research. So it's that kind of disrespect that comes with the position. But again, those of us who have toured in those fields, we were there for the love of students. I always say, you don't do this job if you don't love students. And that's where my heart was coming from. And that's why I know Dr. Bonnie was at Lincoln, because that was her alma mater. One. I remember when she posted on Facebook when she got the job, and she's like, I'm going back home. Right.
Wow. Wow.
And when you're there and you're working at your alma mater, you have so much passion and joy that I'm sure that she walked that campus with every day. And that's what I kept thinking about. You know, my time at Morgan, I had 2 degrees there. I walked that campus every day with passion and joy for my job. But then I also say that the further up you get in the kind of the chain, you know, the further you get away from students. And so she's probably, you know, doing all the administrative things that we have to do. And you know, the trials and tribulations that we went through, we have her words, but you know, we still don't know all of the pain that she suffered. You know,
That's
my
right.
experience was, again, because you're in one of the most uh, disrespected jobs on campus. When it came time for a promotion, or because I sit in student affairs, you know, you didn't think I was worthy of a promotion. Or you have those who you sit under that you know that you have more experience, you're smarter, you have a better vision, you give deference to that person as your leader. But you just have those situations where when you're working for someone who's insecure, who doesn't have confidence in themselves, they tend to give you that kind of backlash, um, or treat you unjustly, or just find things to nitpick. So all those things that I'm sure that Dr. Bonnie was going through, that I also went through, just navigating those waters. Again, at the end of the day, I was there because I love students. But at the same time, I've earned the degrees. I've put in my time. I've done the work. But why am I still feeling like I'm at the bottom of the totem pole just because I'm in student affairs?
Absolutely powerful. And I'm telling you, folks are checking in. We appreciate y'all from all over the country really saying, I want to be a part of this conversation. I want to hear this conversation. I want to tune in. And we appreciate y'all very, very much. And I'm telling you, Dr. Toya's started us out because I don't think a lot of people realize when it comes to student affairs, when it comes to higher education, and let's give a little forefront. We understand this happens in other areas, whether if it's corporate, whether it's military, whether if it's even K-12 education, but all of us work in this bubble. So we can speak on this bubble. And one thing I will clearly say that hurts more than anything that I've seen in student affairs, majority of leaders never go through any leadership training. They will get a position from a friend or a colleague or somebody bumped us up. I'm telling you, from not what I've heard, from what I've seen. I've had a supervisor, I was 35, he was 25. And he was also over a lady who was 60, just fresh out of a master's program. And I'm telling you, a lot of times these individuals do not get the proper leadership training before they get into leadership. I'm going to go to Barbara next because I'm telling you, we just getting started here, folks. And people are definitely showing love to their soror. And we showing love. Happy Founders Day to all the AKAs. That's why we have to show love to Dr. Bonnie, because she should have been celebrating her Founders Day with her sorors today. And Dr. Green, we appreciate you for checking in. And Barbara, you not only knew the great Dean Epps, I believe you're out in the St. Louis area around where Lincoln is. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct.
Go ahead. The mic's yours.
Ooh, the things. Okay, ancestors, I know you got me. Listen, you mentioned 36 out of 100. And Toya mentioned that she'd done the work, as all of us here have done. And so what comes to mind for me is what does it look like when you weaponize Black excellence? Like, what does that look like? What does it mean when you show up, you stay late, you show up early, you go in your pockets to buy supplies for students, you buy the food, you make sure that the event is dripping with whatever it needs for the experience? What does it mean when you've done all the things and still what does a 36 out of 100 even mean? Like, what does that mean? That she spelled her own name correctly? What does that mean? And then I I can recall when Dean Epps pulled me into her office and she said, which is why this space that I'm in with each of you and those online today is so sacred to me. It's because she was the one who said, Barbara, you've got to build a village, you've got to build a tribe of people you trust that you can bring into the sanctuary of this intimate space. And then you can be real and right. This is what Dean Epps told me. Because it was during one of those days when I'm sure someone of a different ethnicity said, thought, intimated something that I took issue with. And I said, I can't do this. And she said, let's talk about it. So build a tribe of those, let's talk about it. And I can look back over my, and Dean Epps was not just referencing professionally. It's life. I want to unpack for you who Joanne Dean Epps was for me. She would invite Black students to her home every single year.
Wow.
Not to flex, but to show this is what community looks like. You can get the paper. You cannot navigate this thing called life without community, right? It can't be done. We were excited because we were going to Dean Epps' house. You going? What are we going to wear? What she emulated for us throughout her life was how essential. It's not just cute. It's not just nice. It is essential that we create spaces in which we feel safe, that we create a tribe and we create a village. But let's not get it twisted. Who's in that village? Need they look like us? Need they be our skin color? I think that I would do well by saying it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. Let's peep the consciousness for so that those with whom we walk can hold us up when we feel like we can't go further. Some friends of mine recently watched the United States versus Billie Holiday, and she had an amazing piece called "Gloomy Sunday," and I've been thinking about January the 7th, 2024. What was Dr. Bonnie's? What were those final paces in her life? What did Sunday, January the 7th, 2024 look like for her, feel like for her? Because I, in full transparency, know what it's like to have the letters, master level professional coach, Juris Doctor, Esquire, set for the bar, passing 2 states. I know all the things. But when you are in your midnight hour and you're trying to pull together the tattered uh, vestiges of your self-worth. Okay, well, did I? Well, maybe I'm not. Well, maybe that. Well, maybe that. Well, you know what? It was supposed to start at 4. I got there at 4:03. So maybe that's the reason why. Maybe that's the reason why I'm on a performance improvement plan. I don't know. So so I'm thinking about what do we do when. Now I have a daughter who got a full ride to Yale. I have a daughter who got a full ride to Harvard. I have a daughter that got a full ride to George Washington. And I tell them that's precious. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a sense of who you are as a Black woman, or indeed, dare I say, as a Black person, a Black professional, a Black breathing human being in a society, irrespective, I wasn't going to say regardless, I promise, irrespective of your pedigree, just having the right of being able to breathe, if you cannot look in the mirror and say, I rock with you, I don't care what time the event started. And if you don't have people in your life who can stand with you and say, yes, you are that one. Yes, you are that one. You are going to find yourself in a 7-day stretch of gloomy Sundays.
That's right. Absolutely powerful. Powerful remarks from Barbara. And that Sunday sits so tough because there's so many of us, especially as Black higher ed professionals, that know what it means to go to sleep that night, knowing what you got to go into that next day. And we truly feel that's what Dr. Bailey was facing.
Yes.
And it's sad to even say, but it's worth mentioning. I can't do another semester under this man. I can't do another day in that office. I can even speak for myself, being put under individuals that I know did not believe in me, walking to my car and punching the steering wheel because I'm pissed off of how they're treating me. I know some of y'all have been in that situation. I know some of y'all have been there. That's why it hits so hard when you see what happens to Dr. Gay. 6 months, what happens to Dr. Bailey? And she wasn't even in that role very long. You're talking about frustration upon frustration, but then you got to go back in those offices with a smile on your face like everything's okay. Dr. Wright, we're going to go to you.
I just to know Dr. Wright, you say go to by smiling. Remember when Angela Bassett got passed over in her response, and people are like, why is she looking like that? Because we're supposed to do this no matter what we're navigating, right? We're supposed to, hey, yeah, I'm in pain, yeah, I'm hemorrhaging, yeah, I'm bleeding, but greetings.
That's true. That's true.
Dr. Wright.
Telling you, just getting started here. If you're checking us out, share your stories in the comments. Everything matters to us because you can see the emotion on our face where we've even had to forgive other people and had to help God, had to ask God to forgive us because we was mad. We was really upset, but we had to keep it together. Dr. Wright, let's get to you, your thoughts. Kind of how are you feeling in this space? You're still on the campus, my brother. You're still doing it.
Yeah.
You know, what does it mean to be there?
Once again, thank you again. I'm humbled to share the space. The genesis of my comments revolved around how quickly the institution appeared to move past, this circumstance, right? The removal of her name from the org structure, like that took some intentional, concerted effort. And that just struck me because so often we talk about, and I'm sorry, this is what I do in work development, talent development. So often we talk about if you were fired or you died on this job, they're going to be replacing you the next day. That job going to be posted. And now, unfortunately, we have a real lived out example before our eyes. We can't deny it. Ain't no erasing it. You can rewind it. And that to me was so, it was an epiphany, right? As someone who thoroughly loves what I have been so blessed to be able to move from a person who had the 1 in a million opportunity to go try out for 32 NFL teams and not get one call back and then land in a job that I've been in, this career for 14 years at this point and have loved it and still do, but I see the struggles.
Yes. Yeah.
I was challenged because I'm thinking in my mind, wow, do I still want to be in upper administration?
Mm-hmm. Come on with it.
Right. Because I'm the person that's doing the training, right? I'm doing the leadership training, right? I'm doing I go to the African American Male Summit every year at NASPA, right? I'm trying to find a village. I'm trying to find a tribe. So that when my time comes, that I can navigate the situation appropriately. But it is and I mentioned this before the show, it just took me back to, I have family members, my uncle, he's in administration, who is doing the exact job and who has expressed these type of emotions, and that could have been him, right? And what none of us are beyond going through these thoughts. And we talk a lot about mental health. And the one thing I want to implore upon people on this call is, please, if you are not seeing a therapist, please go see one. Many of us work on college campuses with counseling for students. They got counseling for employees. I don't care. If you need a counselor, reach out to somebody, please, on this call. I see one once a month, sometimes twice a month, and have been doing so. You know what did it for me? George Floyd. I had to go to work after George. I could not concentrate. And in that situation, I saw my uncle, I saw my brother, I saw myself, and I had to go navigate a campus environment that acted as though business as usual, right? That's business as usual. And that to me is the most startling thing about this entire event is that an institution, having had a person who has paid such a debt to that institution, put forth minimal effort at paying tribute. And so I can understand why people would move away from higher education. And frame themselves as, survivors of this institution. And it's unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate.
John, can I say something before you move on? Brandon, you piqued something in me, and the word is fear.
Mm-hmm.
When you see the situation with Dr. Bonnie and Dr. Gay, and let me also mention the Black women who have served at the helm of other institutions that have been fired or forced to resign.
Yep.
And this is not anything. I'm a product of an HBCU, so I'm not just talking about HBCUs, but there have been a number of Black women who have literally been pushed out of their roles as presidents. Some because they're a woman, right? But seeing all this over the past few years has invoked a spirit of fear in a lot of people who work in higher education. You're like, am I going to be next?
That's right.
Am I going to go to work tomorrow? And am I going to be next? And let me say, I loved my time in higher education. I was, number one advocate and cheerleader for students. I love my staff. I supported them. I encouraged them. I developed them. I think my time just kind of fizzled out. When you're doing the same thing for 20 years, it's a little boring, right? And I needed a new challenge. I loved each institution that I worked for. They all came with their own set of challenges, but like in any other profession, you work through them. And that's just, things that I went through is not new to anybody.
Yeah.
I was the type of person, I have a lot of, confidence in my own abilities. And so I was able to walk through the fire, right? I didn't complain. I didn't complain out loud. I may have gone home and cried some tears, but I showed back up the next day. But I'm thinking about now that woman who's listening, who has fear that this too could happen to her. And what do I need to do now? Do I need to pivot to another career? Because I don't know if I'm going to be worn in my position. Is someone going to find something minute against me to get me out of this role? Right? There's somebody sitting, trust me, they already looking. I read something the other day that said, if you're already on a performance plan, you better start looking for a job, because that's just getting you out, right? Start looking for a new job. One of the things that I do, that I've used my experience with, is that I now coach folks who are particularly in higher education or student affairs, to say, this is how you're going to navigate your troubled waters. And I also want to say this. I know people have fear, but guess what? Everybody can't leave. All of us, particularly people of color, we need you in those institutions. And I'm not saying I'll never go back, but I needed a break at this time in my life. Not saying I'll never go back, but we need those Black faces in those spaces, particularly to support students who look like us. So we're still going to have to walk through the fire. Find your village, as Barbara has said and Brandon has said, that's going to walk through it with you, because we all can't quit, right? We all got to be there to support our students who particularly look like us.
That's good. That's good stuff right there. And I want to touch on this point, and I appreciate you selling so much. Shalisa, I appreciate you with this because this is real. This is how it happens. And I even posted this on my post. You get in there, you get that leadership role, you're rolling. But as soon as you start making changes or say something is wrong, they're going to get you out of there. And we appreciate Barbara's words because she said something. I don't know if y'all caught it, but it is something. Dr. Toya just said it too. PIP, that PIP. I was put on one, but I even told the HR lady, she was a Black lady. They had just brought her in 6 months prior. I said, watch how many Black people get sitting here on PIP plans. And I happen to be one of them. But what happened with my situation, what happened seemed like this situation, those minuscule little things that there's other people that work in your department may not get the same attention for some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But just because it's you,
yep,
they're going to get you. And all they need is 2 or 3 little things to put on that plan and they're shipping it off. Yep. And they're going to have you in HR. And we try to make sure people understand what this stuff is, because that's how they get people to resign. And they want to fire you. They do, but they know there's other people that's doing the same stuff. So if we fire you, they got to fire them. But sometimes they don't want to fire them because they're their friends. I'm telling you, we could be here all night talking about it. But I want you to look at this. And Ms. Holden, we appreciate you for this because this was real. As soon as you say something that you're mistreated, they're either going to act like it's not happening, or they're going to try to get you out of there so they can act like it's not a situation that's as big as it is. I had a chancellor tell me when I took that situation that I was going through, and she said this, and I'll never forget. She said, well, my mom told me, don't worry about telling people on the outside what's going on in the hen house. So basically, whatever's going on that campus, they don't want the news to find out. That's why this Dr. Bailey thing is so big. And so we're going to go to Dr. Henderson. Did you want to show your slide? Did you want to show those? You want to go ahead?
Yeah, but before I do, I'll say this. I've always been a person that does speak, because Zora Neale Hurston said that if you don't talk about your pain, they'll kill you and say that you enjoyed it. And so as African people, and African Americans and educators, damn the politics, we have to speak about it. Because often what happens is we'll leave and then they'll get another Black person and then do the same thing to that Black person. Right. And so for me, I just, as everyone was talking, I'm going back in my history, and I'm just thinking, I used to have panic attacks on Sunday before, going into work on Monday, because the work was so hard. The politics were so thick. I used to run around my block exercising with, Fred Hammond and Marvin Sapp on repeat, because I'm like, dude,
it's real.
This is crazy. I'm sitting in meetings and I'm, being told that, your job isn't to transform the lives of Black students. It's just to manage their behavior. What are you doing here?
Wow.
You need to stay in your lane, Jonathan. What are you doing? Told by folks that, man, you're doing a great job. We just wish you were a Black woman. And I'm sitting here like, what? So is that a divide and conquer tactic? Now I have to think about these things in my mind. I used to get off on lunch break, and the house that I lived in was, 10 minutes away from my job. And I would just go home and lay in the bed and just lay there, and then get up at 1 o'clock, dust myself off, and then go back to work. Just so tired of that space. And so, as a new doctor, when I was in my doctorate program, just graduated in May of 2023, I asked myself, man, what do I want to talk about in this dissertation? What do I want to research? And I decided that what I was going to research were the experiences, of Black folks in higher education, because when I looked at the research and I was trying to find things about our experiences, I couldn't really find too much stuff. And so, I'm not going to go through the whole through everything that I found, but just in case you want to check it out, the title of my dissertation is "I Love My Students, but I Hate the Pimping," and that came from one of the the participants that I interviewed, when he said that, I said, "Oh man, that's the title." And it's just a study of the experiences of we call them immersion coordinators in the California Community College system, but they're Black faculty members in California community colleges that work in Black student success programs. And so for me, what I found was that, when Black communities or Black educators enter into higher education, they get caught in what I term a cycle of institutional neglect, anti-Blackness, and labor exploitation, acronym ENABLE. Right. And so when they get into the institution, like Dr. Toya said, they are not set up for success. No onboarding, inadequate staffing, limited funding, the vision, the scope's not clear. And then oftentimes they have to deal with institutional drama that predates them getting into that space. But now it's their responsibility to deal with. Right.
Yeah.
But what happens? They just don't lay down and take it. They have to perform foundational labor, building their divisions, their departments, their programs from the ground up. But they realize that this is an institutional responsibility, not a personal responsibility. I can't do the work of an institution, right? The participants in my study, said that they found that they had 18 distinct roles and responsibilities that were outside of their contract. And so, as a result, they said, I can't do this by myself. And so they sought help through institutional support, but they were met with barriers to institutional support, chief among them being institutional gaslighting, right? Racial microaggressions, hypervisibility when it comes to critique, but invisibility when it came to support. And, once again, they didn't sit down and take it. They performed resistance labor by advocating, by trying to be, strategic when it came to their behavior modifications. But there was great personal impact to their physical, their mental, their emotional. Folks talked about wanting to commit suicide, getting divorces over, a lot of the stuff that they had to do in higher education, overeating, substance abuse, all of these things. And then eventually led to burnout and transition. And so for me, like, why is this important? It's important. You can stay just right there on that slide, the last slide that I was, the cycle. It's important because when we look at, for example, Dr. Candia Bailey's experience at her institution, she wasn't set up for success. She applied for an FMLA ADA accommodation and didn't receive the accommodation. So what did she do? She had to perform her foundational labor by supporting her division, even though there was a lack of institutional support, which led to a poor assessment. But when she went and said, I need help, she met barriers to that support, bullying, harassment, being blackballed. And then she resisted by advocating for herself to HR and the board, and was subsequently denied by both HR and the board. And then what happened? There was this personal impact, and she ended up actually transitioning through suicide and death. And when I looked at my study, and you could go to the next one now, I found that this is also historical. Mm-hmm. Because when we look at the context of African Americans since enslavement, we see that Black folks were not set up for success. So what did they do? They created their own institutions, Divine Nine organizations, Black student unions, right? To give Black folks what the institution wasn't giving them. But they realized once again, dude, I'm trying to get an A and get out of here. I can't do the work of an institution. So they sought institutional support, but they were met with barriers every step of the way, right? So they resisted through Black social movement. But once again, there's this great personal impact on the folks doing the advocating, which eventually led to folks burnout and transition or firing out of the institutions. So that was really the study. And it's just disheartening to see that context. And so for me, like, that's what I go around now, really working with Black communities, specifically in higher education, on is how can we protect ourselves? How can we see our own work-life balance, our own, self-preservation as resistance within an institution that has historically, right, denied us of the support that we need.
If you ain't heard nothing else tonight,
yeah.
I'm telling you, thank you for that. This is what we do on the Doc Chat Show, folks. We are giving you exactly what you need to help you get through what you're going through right here. I appreciate these incredible doctors, individuals, education, individuals with a connection that is unprecedented. That's why they were able to get this stage today. Because I'm telling you, after I put my post up last week, I had so many people say, I want to speak on, I want to speak on. I was like, these are the individuals God gave me to be able to come out here today. And they have not missed. They have not missed. I'm not going to take too much of their time because we could be all night talking about this. But I'm going to give them another 2-3 minutes each of them. Just tell me final thoughts, what's on their mind, and what are they doing now? What are some solutions that we have? If you could tell somebody, anybody right now that's watching that knows they got to go to work tomorrow on a campus, what would you tell them? And we're going to start with the great Dr. Toy.
You know what, John? I don't have any solutions. This is a systemic problem, right? I don't have any solutions, but what I do have is some advice. And that if you're that person who is already dreading going to work tomorrow, today, it's Dr. King's Day, so most folks are off, but they normally call it like the Sunday night blues, right? Before Monday. I've had friends who share that they have anxiety on Sunday because Monday is coming. After I put my post up on Facebook and LinkedIn the other day, I had so many. It was funny. I had a lot of women who shared, who said thank you for your transparency. I too am going through the same thing, or I cannot get out of my car. It's hard for me to get out of my car when I pull into the parking lot at work, or I have been bullied. I suffer from deep depression and anxiety. I must get out of this role. And so my advice today is if that's what you're feeling, please just walk away. Your health, your mental and physical health is worth so much more than that job.
Yeah.
It's worth so much more than that job. I think if people were treated in a manner that they felt like they could speak up on, at their job, things would be different. But so many people are afraid to say something. And I think this whole situation, somebody is in my inbox said, this is like a Me Too movement for higher education.
Wow, that's powerful.
Right. And, finally, we are talking about the issues that we all face. A lot of my friends think, oh, you had a great job. You work on a college campus is fun. And I'm like, again, I love the students. It's the adults who made it challenging. But my advice today is to walk away. Just walk away. Right. And I offer, if you need someone to talk to, I'm here. Inbox me, find me on LinkedIn by my name, Toya Corbett. But I also want to say for those folks who are particularly in higher ed, sometimes you do have to walk through the fire, but you don't have to walk through the fire alone. Do the work. Always going every day doing your best, but don't sacrifice your life for it.
That's good.
That's my
good. I appreciate that. And tell us a little bit about your business. Let me get you pulled up here. And what you're doing now.
What I'm doing now, again, I'm full-time. I provide business and dining etiquette trainings for my main clients are colleges and universities, but I like to do corporations, internship programs, nonprofits, you name it. I help people dress for success, dine with class, and network like a pro. Again, my name is Toya Corbett. I'm known as the Etiquette Doctor. You can find me at toyacorbett.com, toyacorbett.com.
Love it. We love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you so very much. All your amazing feedback, all of your amazing comments. This is what we need. Ms. Barbara, final thoughts, anything that's on your heart. What would you tell somebody knowing they got to go into an office on a higher ed campus tomorrow?
First of all, I just have to say, Jonathan, really, that Enable is one of the dopest. It's medicine. That was incredible. And I think one of the things that brings us to our knees, we're told to embrace self-care, and we're told to seek therapy. What do you do when you've done all the things? Then what? Because when you feel like you're out of options, that's when the hopelessness sets in. And that's when we find ourselves dancing with mortality, oftentimes, or even if it's not actual mortality in terms of not breathing. Anytime we are a shell of or shadow of ourselves, we are not fully living. And so that can easily happen when you think, but I did all the things. I followed the rules. I did the things. And
Yeah.
still, I got a 36 out of 100. So to anyone who is dreading tomorrow, I can recall my therapist saying to me that our brains are designed to protect us. And so when I would get out of my car, when I was able to force myself to get out of my car and walk into the office, oftentimes passing a truck with a Confederate flag, my body is going behind enemy lines. So even if you have the corner office, and even if you have the plush gig, your body is knowing that you're going into a place that's not safe. So, what I will offer to you who may be looking at trying to make the transition that Dr. Toya just mentioned in terms of just leave, be intentional about creating that tribe or that village who can help you navigate that. Easy to say, not cute when you don't want to ask your friends to help you with a mortgage or rent or car payment or food step, whatever it is. Do whatever you can to get your heart into a place of safety. And that oftentimes, meaning I hear Exhibit A, we're going to push pause on that ego. We're going to push pause on pride. And we have to recognize that there are those of us who've navigated this. We're not standing here, just particularly if our divine journey is to stand with those who are navigating this. Reach out. Reach out. Do not suffer in silence. Be intentional about cultivating your village or your tribe. And I'll end with this. I am in the process of launching Growth Point. It's designed for that person who feels like, what, one more damn thing. I cannot take one more. I can't take another. I can't, not another thing. Growth Point, God has entrusted me to lift Growth Point so that we can navigate those growth points in our lives. So, LinkedIn, I'm in all the spaces. That is going to be my next season. That is my next season. I have come out of higher education. I've come out of the leadership spaces, and now I am walking out what thus said the Lord that has purposed my life, and that is Growth Point.
That's epic. Absolutely epic. As you see, two incredible Black women that have started their own entrepreneurial journeys. So what I'm letting you know is you're more than a director, you're more than a coordinator, you're more than an advisor. You can flex your skills. Don't be afraid to look at national nonprofits. Don't be afraid to look at federal jobs. You can do so much as a higher education professional outside of higher education. Do not forget that.
You can do it. I'll say, John, I do career coaching as well. And now I've started doing consulting for student affairs for those, departments or divisions who want to bring me in to do the team building, to have the discussions. But I think it's all about communicating and allowing people to have a voice, right? I'm doing that as well, using my expertise to help people, when I say navigate these troubled waters. And the last thing I'm going to say is what's been in my spirit is when someone tries to dim your light, build a fire. Build a fire.
Right.
We loved it. We love it. We love it. All right, gentlemen. I know it's hard to come from behind two incredible women, but we're going to let y'all try. So, Dr. Wright, we're going to give you final words. What would you give that individual going into work, going into those office spaces tomorrow? And tell us about other things that you're doing and where people can find you.
Yeah, thanks again. And I just double down on everything that has already been said. heart attacks, research says most people have heart attacks Monday morning on their way to work. And to me, that says a lot about the work and health connection. I have a PhD in health educational promotions. And so my piece of advice is if you have to go into work tomorrow and you have to face these environments that are not conducive to your growth, and as someone who is a career developer, I would say make a plan, make an exit strategy, make it quickly. Give yourself 6 to 12 months to go into nonprofit entrepreneurship, wherever. I help people exit higher education weekly. And so it is not anything new to me to see people who are transitioning away from higher education. And
That's right.
on the other side of that, we need the people who want to be here. And if you want to be in higher education, I would say this as a man of faith. You are not meant to walk this path alone. If there is one Black person, one other person of color, one other woman of color, somebody whom you have a connection with, doesn't always have to be same color as you. I would say transparency and honesty, building a relationship, building your tribe with that one person. I've been on campuses where I was the lonely only in the leadership meetings. Thankfully, now I am not that place. I am not there, not in Birmingham, baby, not in Birmingham. And so I would say be very intentional about the institution that you work for. And this is something that people do not look at when they're looking at jobs. People most of the time will look at salaries, titles, different things like that.
I'm with it.
Here's what you really need to be thinking about, whether it's work. Is it worth working for that leader? How much is that headache really worth?
With it. Come with it.
How much is that leadership really worth? There's a lot out there. You can tell what your leader feel like on X. Go to Twitter. You'll see what they feel like. You'll see their thoughts. And so when you are looking at opportunities, please do look at the leadership before you say, oh, I got to get this job. I got to make this exit. And
Brennan, I always say you need to be interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you.
It's a two-way street.
That's good.
That's what we say. It's a two-way street.
Interviewing your leader as well.
And lastly, find something that whatever you're doing, we all love working with students, but guess what? Students work at Chick-fil-A. You can impact students. You can impact people wherever you go. And you don't have to be in poverty. You ain't got to work at the university 8 to 5 and go work a part-time job, Uber. You can do this work and impact lives in an area that gives you meaning and purpose. And that, for me, is the last piece of advice that I would give anybody going into the office on tomorrow.
Absolutely powerful. Dr. Brandon Wright, everybody. And I'm telling you, he said something earlier I want to make sure I key in on too, about finding your space. And I love the RIFRA space in AERA. I love Black SAP with NASPA. You know, find those individuals that are going to help you. And let me be flat out honest. We talked about this before we got on. Not all your skin folk or your kinfolk. And some of the best extensions in the higher ed I even had were from white people, if I be flat out honest with you.
Yeah.
When some of the people that were hindering me the most were Black people. So just find your tribe. Everybody's kind of touched on that a little bit. Find your people that you can find peace and happiness and joy in to be able to serve your students, serve faculty, serve staff, because we know the money a lot of times ain't worth it. We love it so much. That's how they get you. Sometimes they get you with pizza or food. But you know, we got into this and we want to stay with it as long as we can, but never stay in it so long that it burns you out. Dr. Henderson, we gonna go ahead and give it with you. Your last thoughts. You give words somebody going to that last job space tomorrow, maybe the last place they want to go. What would you tell them?
Yeah, so I have, just for me, individual solutions. Number one, you got to know and understand the context under which you are working in. You are working in an anti-Black context. It is cultural. It's cultural. Think like English. It's not changing. And because of that, one, you can release yourself of the responsibility for having to change something that you didn't create. And number two, you can do what I do, which is establish workplace boundaries.
That's good.
It's not just something that's nice to do. It's something that's literally, for an African American, it's an act of resistance in the institution. And so, remember, boundaries are not what you want other folks to do. Boundaries are about what you do and do not do. And so for me, like, I have a list of things that I do and things that I don't do within the institution. A couple quick ones are, I don't have my email on my phone. When I go home, I go home. Yeah. Another one is, I don't build planes and fly them at the same time. I told them that in my interview. I said, I don't build planes and fly them. If you want to hire somebody who does that, fine. I will give you great quality work, but I got to build the plane first, then test it, then fly it, because that's what matters to me, and that's what matters to the students.
Good.
And they still hired me. So, and then another one is that I don't let folks put meetings on my calendar without talking to me about it first. And so, all of those things will help to kind of reduce your time and help you to preserve, yourself for what matters most. And that's the students that you're serving. And then you'll be surprised that it'll rub people the wrong way a little bit at first, but then folks will be trained around how to treat you. So they just won't go to you for it. And you'll have a great time working with your students, working with your colleagues, and you'll be able to move much easier within the higher ed system. Now, you might get blackballed and harassed and other things like that. And then for me, then that's a space that I don't need to be in. And so, I can go, right? Which goes to my next point, which is like, really, like, believe in your own agency as a Black educator. It shocks me, like, Dr. Turner, I see like these Black folks with master's degrees and doctorate degrees acting like they have no agency in the institution. You can leave and find something great. You're qualified. You've been doing this for 20 something years. What do you mean you can't find a job? But we walk around like we're scared because something's going to happen and then we'll never be able to do anything. And that's not necessarily the case. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, do that. And then finally, like, with all the time that you have, from having your workplace boundaries, then you can create pockets of safety for other Black educators and Black communities. And so for me, that's kind of what I do. We have trainings. And so one of the trainings I created, because I realized that, when educators come in, like we said, we don't really get onboarding. So I created a training for folks that work in Black student programs or working to create cohorts and cultural centers, called Program Design for Digital Equity. It's coming out in a couple of months, and it literally will train the practitioner how to create a sustainable program that works on their campus, step by step. It's got workbooks and all that stuff. It's great. And then finally, I'll say this, the other thing that you all can do, especially those of you who may be administrators, those of you who may have some sort of a budget, you can come and bring us out and let us advocate for you. Oftentimes, there might be things that you might not be able to say within your institution, but if you contact Dr. Toya and say, hey, can you come to my institution? Can we do a program around this? Dr. Toya will be able to say and work with folks that you might not be able to work with.
And pay her worth. Pay her worth. That's right.
And so, for me, like, contact me. I'll come and we'll talk with folks. And so those are some of the things I do as well. We talk about anti-Blackness. I've done webinars on that for particular colleges. We do, Black student leadership stuff for particular colleges. Most of the time I work with a lot of student programs and services that particularly support Black students, really advocating for those programs so that folks can get what they need. And so those are some of the things that I would say.
Absolutely. Phenomenal.
I love Black people. I love Black people. I love y'all.
Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
Hey, we are wrapping up here on the Doc Chat Show, this special episode. Thank you all so much. If you feel that in the air, that's what you should be feeling right now. That motivation, that inspiration to go on and know that you can go to the next level. And I'm telling you, you can do it. You can do it. And you're talking about, I got entrepreneurs on here, I got authors, I got creators, and we are just a small sample size of who we are. We are here. These campuses, as Dr. Toya said, as all of these doctors said, they need us there. They need us there, but we are not going to be there and be disrespected. Thank y'all all so very much. I'm telling y'all, some people talk about part two. We gonna let this one digest first before we go on to dessert now. You know what I'm saying? We gonna let this one digest first. But everybody be blessed. I'm telling you, we'll be back with the Doc Chat Show soon. We're looking to come back in March, but I might have to get it kicked off a little bit sooner. I'm telling y'all, because the people need a space to show that all of us who have any kind of doctor degrees are doing great things here in our world and our nation.
Yep. One more thing.
Yep.
I'm a big believer in reading, so I have a reading list.
You did have a reading list.
Dr. Turner can post it. So if y'all need some articles and some books to help justify some of the things that you're doing on your campuses, I got a list for you. And then somebody put in the chat that they wanted a copy of my research. If you private message me, I will send it to you. So just let me know if you need any of those articles. I believe I can get the majority of them for free. So just let me know.
And these great individuals, they'll come back in the chat. They'll touch base with you in the chat. They'll look it over. I mean, I'm talking about people showed up tonight. Thank y'all just for taking the time. People showed up, and we are so thankful for you all. So reach out to them, connect with them. I found them on LinkedIn. So definitely. They're getting off of X or Twitter, whatever. LinkedIn is where the Black higher ed professionals are at right now. That's where we're at. So come find us, touch base with us. Hey, give us those opportunities, like Dr. Johnson said. Reach out to Dr. Troy. We need those opportunities. You got money in your budgets, your professional development budgets. Bring us in. Bring us in to speak. Bring us in. I'm telling you, it will change your life when you bring in people that you know you're helping them out. And I'm telling you, it's going to bless you. It's definitely going to bless you. So until next time, the Doc Chat Show will be getting ready to roll back out here in the spring. Keep an eye on us. God bless you all. And until next time, everybody, peace out.
Peace.